gonna do that now. Okay, now we're recording, but there was like a good chunk of conversation. So if you are watching this on my extremely super fun and fabulous YouTube channel, of which I haven't really promoted, so hit subscribe. My daughters love to pretend they have a YouTube channel and they're like, hit like and subscribe. So like do that now if you want to. Yeah, so we had a good, like very beautiful conversation previous to this, so you can check it out on the Facebooks. But we're kind of just segueing into this idea of the ecosystem and like all these various parts that we carry, and ideas and beliefs and feelings and all of these experiences, like all of them are super valuable and should all be included in a conversation. And to me, that's what embodiment actually means. It's that I
Mm,
am in the body and in all of it at all times without being taken over by any shadows I have or healing I have to do, because I'm in a place of willingness. I'm in
mm,
a place of consciousness, that I'm not trying to hide or avoid these, parts that we've been conditioned to not really like, or shouldn't be at, they're not as good, or like we'd be better off without them, right? Like, isn't that embodiment? I don't know what else it could be.
ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, I just, it's like a shorthand way to say what you described is how closely linked shadow and embodiment are. And I love that. Because I think, yeah, like you were touching on, it can become this like embodiment is like the way to be
Hmm.
because it's trendy or
Right.
whatnot. But do we even know what the hell?
But what does it even mean? Like, what does embodiment even mean? Like, what is that, right? Like,
Yeah, what is the
these are
sacred?
questions we should be asking ourselves, to be discerning, right? To again, to be our truth is to really question a lot, I think. And like, is that for me? I mean, I know in coaching for a while there, it was all about codes and cess portals and quantum leaps, and all of
Mm,
this is real and cool. Like, no, I'm not poo-pooing any of it because it's all super cool. It's
mm-hmm.
not my jam and it didn't resonate with me. But there could have been a part of me that was like, but that's what everybody's doing, so I should probably do that.
Mm.
Right. And I feel like embodiment is like owning what is yours and what isn't yours. Like, I feel like most of it's like, not mine, not mine, not mine, not mine. And then there you are.
Mm. I
Yeah.
I was on a group call and someone like the coach who was leading this class said,
Mhm,
yeah, he described how he runs a certain part of his business a certain way and how well it's working for him.
mhm.
And one of the students said, "Oh my God, that's possible? Like it's possible to do it this way and not have to deal with and not do it that way." And what came out of me in that moment, right in the chat box, we're all like furiously cross-pollinating. It was anything is possible if it's for you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Anything is possible if it's for you. Right.
Mm.
Simple.
And then if it's not, go ahead.
No, no, I'm just like, yes, I'm in agreeing. Like, it's simple that way.
Mm. I find, you mentioned confusion, and I think that can be really helpful because sometimes, I don't know, I feel like well, I don't know. I've observed that a more common lens
Hmm.
is like, I mean, this is another thing that people mention all the time. I'm curious if this comes up. Yeah, I think you've said is is comparison. Like if it worked for this person, so it should work for me, and if it doesn't work for me, then there's something wrong with me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. What an ouchie. What an ouchie. And my hope at the end of my time with the humans that I am so blessed to work with
Mm.
is that that's something that is just isn't in their way anymore. That it's not that they notice when they're attaching or trying to be something that they're not inherently of. And
Mm.
you really, to me, like
Mm.
owning your voice. And I mean, I love doing messaging and like language work with clients because it's so delicious. And part of that is, but what does it mean to you? Like, what is embodiment to you? Like, what are all these words to you? And what
Mm.
is a strategy for you around what makes sense for your particular uniqueness, right? And yeah, so there's great things that can come out of, well, so and so did it this way, and maybe I should try it that way, right? Like,
Mhm.
so there's like
Oh yeah.
there's good stuff in there for anybody. Like, hey, maybe that is for me, and I won't know unless I try. Like, we can do this, not for me, not for me, not for me, not for me, in a stubborn way,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
is for me. I am so unique that nothing is for me. And like that's also kind of a form of sabotage. Don't do
Yeah.
that. Like, be willing to try, but not in a way of like me is inherently not good enough or not worthy or like something's broken or like I'm the problem. And so
Yeah.
maybe that will be a solution.
Oof.
Oh, right. Like that's like an ouchie to come from that place. Like I can't figure it out. I can't do it. And so I'm gonna just kind of look and see what I can like plop in and plug in to me.
Yeah, an ouchie. I love this term. I'm totally taking this.
You feel
Yeah.
it. Feel it.
Yeah, okay. I've been really wanting to bring in, have us riff on one of the phrases, speaking of, that's like goes around so much, and I think there's so much like battle from two opposites that happens around this concept of everything you need is inside of you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can riff on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yes and no, right? Like I wasn't born um
Yeah.
knowing how to read the English language. So that wasn't inside of me. The capacity to, the pieces that needed to come together, yeah, that was always inside of me. But
Mm.
there's there's something outside of me in my communal space that will help me put it together,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And the same is true for like it would be such a disservice for a coach who's claiming to help somebody with their business, which, let me clarify, I am not making those claims. Do not come to me because you are desperate to put your business together. Definitely have some areas I can help you with, like 1,000,000,000%, but that's not what I do as a whole, right? Um, and with that said, if I just sat there and was like, okay, everything is all here, like go within for all of it, that would be such a ding dong move. There's Emily Utter, ding dong move.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah, I
such
know
a ding
Emily has a
dong
lot
move.
of thoughts on this.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but I share the same
Yeah.
thoughts, which is why I, find myself in her spaces, because I share that view that no, there's things you don't know how to do yet. um, Messaging is a big one. Most of us don't come into the online space, no matter what our service is, knowing how to actually use social media to like communicate and message out what we do, who it's for, how we help people, all like the value of it, the benefits. Like we don't come in really knowing how to do that, that there's like an art to that. And when I first started, I was like, I don't even know what I was doing, but it's something that I've had to work on and get really good at, because the answer wasn't inside of me. I didn't know how to do it. I needed somebody to show me how to do it. Same
Mm.
thing with, yeah, you may have the most amazing skill and knowledge and certifications, but if you don't know how to put a curriculum together so that you can talk about it, so that you feel confident you know what you're doing, so you're not just winging it on every call. Like I don't want to pay somebody to wing it. Sorry, I don't. Most people don't. They need to know what it is. And that's a skill,
Mm.
and you need to
Mm.
learn it. Period.
This is great. I have like a similar and like nuancedly, is that a
Yes,
word?
we're making it a word.
Different
It's a
take,
word.
but what's so fascinating about that is we're naming these like great pillars, and one of them is this huge like different people are different and they
Correct.
have different needs and they thrive in different ways with different approaches in something like skill building, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I've noticed is actually a big determinant, it seems, in whether something has worked for me or not,
Mm-hmm.
is how much is it coming from right brain, like how much is it, and how much from left.
Yes.
And
Correct.
it's funny that I have the light is like splitting me
It
in
is
half
splitting
right
you. I
now.
know. I'm like, you've got some cool light, girl. We have sunshine, but it's not coming in yet. But yeah,
Yeah.
right. It has to be for it has to work. It has to be retainable, digestible for everyone.
Yeah, and sometimes I have to say I think I'm pretty half-half. This is what I was like, oh, the light is perfect
Yeah.
with like being processing in an emotional, intuitive, creative, artistic way, and then also having the side of me that's very pragmatic, very structured, very
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'll notice when I am like first of all, if I am getting support to learn a skill, that's the other thing you named so well is what's the come from place. We're talking about the come from place,
Yeah.
what works for each person.
Yeah. What's the motivator, the internal motivator? It's like, what's the part of us that's leading us in this decision?
Yeah.
To come
Yeah.
from this.
And that I do feel it does come from within me. And often that internal flame, it's so connected to the external. I mean, the manifestations
Mm-hmm.
are like undeniable.
Yes.
Undeniable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's both, right?
Mhm.
It's both. And another phrase I hear, now this one it just makes me like, is like, F, I'm not gonna swear, but the word swear starts with the F is the F word, like F the fear and do it anyway. And
Mm.
so it's exciting and I love that idea. And yeah, I still think that's great. I'm not totally tossing this out the window and like never to be said again.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
it has the capacity to be dangerous of F the fear and do it anyway. Um,
Mhm.
because its premise is that fear is bad, fear is wrong, um, doubt is bad, doubt is wrong, overwhelm is bad, overwhelm is wrong.
Mm.
And
Mhm, mhm,
my
mhm.
invitation is to just get that out of like just unplug from that because that's just old conditioning about what emotions are valuable.
Mm.
And what a shame that is because that diminishes
Mm.
the most valuable and um, creatively wealthy parts of us are the
Mm.
ones that hold
Mm.
fear.
Yes.
They're the little ones that came with into the world with the most light and hope and excitement and unhindered worldview. So why wouldn't you want to like resurrect from there as opposed to like poo-pooing it because it's, afraid of something? Fear is not bad. Fear is just as valuable of an intuitive input than anything else.
Yeah, you know what's sticking out to me
I'm trying to cut
is
yourself up.
is how sometimes a lot, it's just so human to try to avoid discomfort.
Totally.
And sometimes there's just no way around it in a in a good way, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, part of the art, speaking of, creative wealth, is being able to distinguish between when is discomfort holy, and it's loving, it's an act of loving myself. It's even can be exciting.
Yep.
And
Courage.
when is discomfort, when is discomfort like actually not to be overridden, to be listened to in a way that is actually redirecting.
It's a redirection. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like discomfort or fear or anything in that flavor town of emotions can be a redirect.
Yeah.
Can be a redirect. And shame is almost always, I would just say shame is always an invitation
Mm.
because
Mm.
because just like a tree, we see it because of a system of roots below. And so we show up in the world with a whole system below us that we carry. And that's where we want to stay the healthiest, is that it is the nether worlds of our being, where how our relationship to shame is, how our
Mm.
relationship to despair is, like fear,
Mm.
all of these so-called lower emotions,
Mm-hmm.
our immediate relationship with those and how open we are, how closed we are to them is a huge, in my opinion, is a huge determinant of how we just lead ourselves to through the day by day process by way of like just doing 3D things, like feeding
Ooh,
ourselves
yeah.
well, like getting our taxes done, like those monkey.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's talk.
Yeah, like these are so. And so when Isabel, thank you so much for going through so I got my heal program coming in. I'm like, could you just look at this? I'm like, I'm in my head. It's like, I'm just too deep in my sales copy right now. And your feedback was so amazing. It was so good. And you're like, oh, I love it. And I love you. And like all the things, but like, so what?
Yeah.
Like, what, like I get everything you're saying and I'm agreeing to it, but I'm not really going to agree in terms of like actually stepping into the container, which I can't help people if I don't make it really clear and legible, like why you can come in and what you're going to get. And so one of the things you pointed out to me, which I'm so grateful for, is like, so what? Like, so you can get shit done that you've been avoiding, so that you can have that hard conversation, right? So that you can like
Mm, that's a great
follow
one.
through on a launch, for example, where you may have hiccuped before, or like constantly pivoted every 2 weeks, or like nobody's buying, so I've got to like refigure everything out. It's like, no, hold the line, girl. Like these are all
Mm.
things that I think we can agree we want to do more of, right? Like to actually participate in a healthy way in our life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, talk about embodiment. I think, you just keep describing it more and more deeply and and beautifully.
Mhm.
Embodiment is it's not it's true. It's not just an idea. Like, oh, this concept, this idea sounds great.
Yeah.
And embodiment is actually allows us to be functional. Not just
Yeah.
not just in a basic way, but in a magical way. I mean, magical, I say magical as in, I mean, I really love that word. I know some people are a little
Yeah.
afraid of it, I think, but I guess we all have our own sense of what is magical, what feels magical.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the other flip side of the magic is like the perceived dysfunction we think we have. Like, I think all of us have an area in our life or our being or our body and our relationships and our finances and our career
Mm,
relationships,
mm,
you name it, parenting,
mhm.
my home, like all the things.
Yeah.
There is this inherited perceived dysfunction where I'm not, this is kind of, this is like my junk drawer of myself. We all have a junk drawer, and we all have this perceived dysfunction existing in our life. And my invitation is like, what if maybe that wasn't a thing anymore? Like,
Mm,
what could be possible now if we just kind of maybe don't have this perceived dysfunction anymore? And like, what could be possible from there? Because we have,
mm.
it's inherited too. It's not, it's something that was given to us, and we kept agreeing to it by viewing ourselves that way.
Yeah, that identity piece. Yeah, that's another like pillar that is just,
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
yeah.
The whole thing.
So for example, Can you give me an example? Like the taxes
Oh, yeah.
would be a drunk drawer? A drunk drawer. A
It was a
junk
drunk
drawer.
drawer. Or like drinking. I don't know. I mean, I drank for a while and was like, hey, internet, I need to stop
You
drinking.
know? Yeah.
Like, oh my God, talk about airing your dirty laundry. But we all have these
Yeah.
areas that, they're perceived as some of them are dysfunctional. Like, I don't want to like negate that truth. Like,
Hmm.
it's like,
Hmm. Yeah.
in parts work, it would be like these intense parts of us that think they have to come in and get us out of what they think is a potential problem or like
Oh, this is so good. This is so good.
yeah, so those
Oh,
are
I've gone through so much shit, like
yeah,
working that out. Yeah.
yeah, that's a
I
big
get
thing,
so
man.
much trouble for myself. Yeah.
So much trouble, right? But
Yeah.
it's there's parts that are really hyper vigilant about making sure we're okay, and they're going to do whatever they need to do. They don't really care about any damage. They're going to do whatever. They're going to knock us out with booze. They're going to knock us out with
Mm.
addictions and paint.
Mhm.
What an outsider would be like, God, look at them sabotage themselves. But in the eyes of that part, that's like, I'm looking at this whole thing here and I'm just seeing we've got a real problem. So we're just going to divert. Right.
Yeah.
And this is what I think my perception is. This is what people attempt to use mindset to help. And that's almost never going to work the way that you want it to, because it's not going to, you're trying to override a key part of the system.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I would love to hear like an example that comes to mind for you, if any,
Around what I just need.
around everything that you've described, this perceived area of dysfunction and a part of self jumping in.
Sure. I think it can happen with entrepreneurs at any stage who are, especially in the industry, who are of the mindset or of the lens or the worldview that to be legitimate, I need to pay a coach and be in a container if I'm going to.
Mm.
Right. And so, first of all, is that really true for you? Like, I'm not saying there isn't value in it, but if you're doing it just because you think you're supposed to, well, then there's that part of you that's trying to compare and be something as opposed to like, here's what I need. And that space has what I need. So I'm going to
Yes.
invest, like make healthy investments, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So that can come from a place of like, my perceived dysfunction is that
Hmm.
it's not working for me right now. Like I'm not getting the results. It's taking too long. I'm not where I should be. Something's broken.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
this
Yeah.
is, I have an inherent dysfunction that I can't seem to get it when everybody else is getting it. Except mostly everybody else isn't also not getting it. So
Yes.
the perceived internalized thing of like, I am so special that I can't figure this out. So what are we going to do? We're going to
Mm.
get some help for this perceived dysfunction. And I'm not saying don't get help, like, but
Right.
maybe another course giving you a 5-step formula is not actually going to help you. The thing that's really going on is like, it's an internal piece.
Right. 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 And that I as you know, I just resonate so deeply with your perspective on that, because I see maybe this is like my social media or whatnot, you know. Um, but I'm also, I've been around the world a not a good amount. I'm
Thinking about
binational and all that jazz on top of it. Um, I feel like we have been in an environment, a society where the dominant messaging is pushing strategy, and that it's starting to come in more now, the understanding that
Mhm.
emotional fluency,
Yeah,
somatic regulation,
yeah.
that you're not getting anywhere without those.
Not. it's period. You're
Mm.
not. And a journaling mindset is not a bad thing, but there's more to it than that. You
You're
know?
the journaling mindset. Yes, yes.
Yeah, there's
More
nothing wrong with
journaling
it.
prompts.
Yeah, no, like, those are all really important pieces,
Yeah. Oh,
as
yeah.
well as like many other things too, right? Because journaling is and I mean, yes, you want to get your body into it and all the things, but most of the time journaling is just like a head up thing, or it can be for many people. So
Yeah.
you need more than that. But yeah, there's the strategy, like, but we're the ones that are implementing the strategy, right? It's the
Right.
human behind the strategy that actually makes it work, not the strategy itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And without, I know, I mean, I watch it in myself as I've um, been developing my strategic skills.
Yeah.
Um, that thank God, I'm so, uh, it is my forte. It is my area of genius. So sometimes I'm in containers where there isn't as much, you know, like conversation around that aspect of things or whatnot, facilitation.
Mhm.
Um, and yes, I can go and get support, and I've have like incredible mentors for that. But I do also watch how and appreciate how my own um like I'll notice when I'm really kind of spent and resistant and tired, and I go, oh yeah, I understand, I'm integrating right now, like I
Yeah.
need to just go a little slower this week,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's part of this.
Yeah. It saves you from like a breakdown when you pushed yourself when you weren't meant to push yourself. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
more conversation around the value of emotional literacy, like to be literate in when it comes to the emotional body. And,
Mm.
you know, even naming feelings, even being able to name the feeling that you're having
Ooh.
beyond the scope of like, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm like really angry, I'm really sad, I'm really happy, I'm really mad. Like these are all good, but there's more, there's like anger, for example, has multiple lines of what flavor of anger is it? Is it like a protective anger? Is it an anger towards something outside of you, or is it an anger within? And that's one of the questions that I'll sort of prompt clients on is, like, I'm hearing that you're frustrated. Like, I'm just curious, when you feel into that, does it feel
Mm.
toward, or does it feel
Mm.
side? Right? Because
Love that.
that's really important to like, and these are the nuances of what it means to be emotionally literate. um
Mm. Mhm.
and this is the
Yeah.
water I swim in, so I think everybody's got this ability,
Right.
and it
Right.
takes multiple people to point back like, no, Leanna, this is part of the global breakdown. I'm like, yeah, right. What
Yeah,
kind of
we could go
leadership
live. We could go live.
what kind of leadership could we expect if we had emotionally literate, conscious, freaking grounded in the 3D world humans?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love how you tied all of that together.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's
The 3D world and the emotional literacy.
yeah, that's, to me, that's what embodiment is about. Like, that's sort of a starting point, right? Is that emotional literacy. And
Mm.
it's something that is a non-negotiable in my work, by way of like just going through the process of doing the shadow work, of unfolding all the different, like, of learning about what really does live in you, and teaching through that experiential way of, okay, well, I do have, I hold a lot of anger. There's so much
Mm.
that is, and it's bitterness now. I'm bitter.
Mm.
And
Yeah, it's dynamic
it's
too.
very dynamic, and it's like, okay, let's learn, because it is a skill. It's not something we taught. Let's learn how to, it's innate, but it's been unconditioned for so like conditioned out of our system, because there's valuable emotions and then not valuable. Bitter is not valuable. So we're like hating
Mm.
toward it, but like, what if there was a different way? And so there's like a way to do that. And so we learn that, because there is nothing that will stop you more in life than a feeling, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you're a head up and you're a thinker and you're just going to navigate it all up here, fine, live in your head, that's cool, I get it, I did it for years. But like, you want balance, you want this alignment, you want flow, you want fluidity, great, then learn how to be with yourself, period. You got to have a way to do that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. One thing that I observed with myself, and not just myself, I'm thinking of one particular client, at least in this moment, at least, right? Is that all this nuance that you're describing, like, sure, there's anger, but there are like, infinite flavors of anger. And then not only can I be angry at the same time as I'm whatever
Yes,
other thing.
multiplicity of emotions is like, am I this, am I that? Girl, you are all of it, you're all of it at once.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of like, speaking of deconditioning, and I actually pulled a card before this and it spoke perfectly to everything we're talking about. And it was on inner trust and
Mhm.
kind of encouraging this coming out of hiding and unveiling. And I that can be overwhelming and exposing to like,
Absolutely.
I just want to speak to like, because I think there's some creatures who can't get away from their multiplicity. They haven't been able to sever from it. And like, I see you too, I get you too, I am you, you know. And that there's this process of not compensating for that, not thinking that that's wrong, and actually like, let this conversation be a testament to how, like, what a gift that is. There are people who like, I mean, we all have our own, we all have our work, right?
Yes, we all have our work, right? We all have our areas and our places, but there is something about being able to really find that actual specificity with the emotions. Like, I'm not just frustrated, I'm bitter. But for example, to stay on the same example, it's like bitterness is a different, that's something very specific.
Mm.
And at the same time, there's probably multiple parts that respond to that emotion. So everything's responding to everything. Everything's in relationship to everything. Nothing is absolute on its own vacuous space, even though we're caught in this dichotomous world of like, it's so individualized, like our culture, our North American culture, for the most part, it's a very individualized piece. It's all up to the person, right? It's all up to you. Pull up your bootstraps. If you want it, you go get it. Right. And but
Yeah.
like, it's actually not, that's not really how we work inside. Like, you've got this bitterness and you have a response to that. You have a part that's like, I shouldn't feel that, I should be grateful. A part that's like, when, like, how do we let this go? Like the figure it out part. Like, we have responses to everything that happens, and you have to have a way to navigate that. When I hear people are overwhelmed, often, more often than not, not always, but often, it's because there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's just too many voices, and you just don't have a way to be with it and to flesh out and to go one by one. It's like 30 kids coming at you, asking.
Ooh.
You can't.
Ooh.
It's too many things.
Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep,
Ooh.
beep, beep, beep. Right?
Yeah, I love this metaphor. I love your eye on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I definitely experience that a lot. Well, mostly in the face of visibility.
Yeah, and everybody has their place to unpack, right? Um, everybody has their place to unpack. And for some people, yeah, it's about visibility. And for some people it's about
Mm.
voice. Really, they're, to me, they're like one and of. And again, that's where we can start to turn that place where we're aware our work is into, say, perceived dysfunction, except we just all have our areas to get better at. And
Oh my gosh.
if we just make that okay, like, can we just make that okay? Like, we're
Oh.
all like, not, we're all growing in one area in more ways than we are in others,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's something that the 20s, there's still, I don't know if it was like this for you, there's still this ability, I think anatomically, probably cerebrally, neurologically or
Yes.
something to go one day, like I'm just gonna get there, I'm gonna arrive. And
There's
then
no arrival, girl. Yep.
nope.
Nope. And if we can just
Nope.
like get on board with that, there is no arrival point.
Exactly. On board with it. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
accept.
there's so much beauty.
Mhm. Yeah. There's no arrival point. There's no arrival point. And even when you arrive, unless you are really in yourself in a good way and like really conscious and you got your feet on the ground and you're present and you're aware of what's actually important in your life, who you are, own it all, live satisfied, you're going to get to that arrival point and it's still not going to be good enough. You're barely going to
Yeah.
pause and you're going to be like, okay, what's next? I gotta, and like, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's where having all those different parts collaborating is so important rather than
Yep.
overridden, left behind, overridden, left behind. Then you've got like one part of you left, so to speak. Of
Yep. Yep.
course
And
you feel incomplete. You are.
I,
Yeah.
I also think it's really funny that my budgies are speaking to the birds that are playing in the background
Oh,
for you, because
oh, really?
I can hear my budgies are like, hey, wish we got some buddies here.
Oh.
um, okay, so to sort of tie this up in a neat little bow, you know, I'm curious what some of the takeaways from this like might be, or like some ideal takeaways you'd love to gift people from this conversation. Like, what would you really, if you could make sure everybody got this one thing and they had it in their pocket from this conversation, what would that be for you? I'm
Mm.
just curious. What would be that desired takeaway for everybody to like never forget this?
That's a great question. Um, we covered so much good stuff. Um, okay, so I mean, I will love, love, love to hear anyone's takeaways who was with us live or is catching the replay. Um, I want to hear your takeaways. And what I would, yeah, what I would want to give you, what I would want to give is trusting the dynamic, multiplicitous wealth of your nature. I'm an articulate.
I love it though. I love it.
I like words.
Yeah, no, but just trust all of it's like good and meant to be, and everything's okay, and all of it is perfect and it's part of you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, another way to say it would be to say, like, I encourage you to take up space.
Mhm.
Um, like especially in the areas where you feel too much. Like there's that you are precious, that is precious. There's so much gold there. It's really like you can change any room, like you change people when you share that part of yourself, when you share what's truly going on with you. That's the perhaps the most tender and exposing.
Mhm.
Like you will change the course of people's lives and you will change your life.
Yeah. That's it right there. Yeah, you
Yeah.
will. People remember truth.
Truth.
People
Yeah.
remember that. It hits them and they remember that. There are still phrases that people have said to me that have never left my system because it was true. Or
Mm,
it pinged me in a way that had me question, and in a good, healthy way, to really reflect on what was going on with me. Like truth is resonancy, that
mm,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Mine's very simple. Mine is you need a way to be with yourself. You need a way to handle yourself. And of course my invitation is to just to sit with what you're not ever going to forget from this conversation, or from anything that you picked up on. Well, either you heard this in the background or you scrolled by or whatever it is. In some way there's something in it that is now part of you. So my invitation is like, what would that be?
Mm,
um
mm.
and that you need a way to handle yourself. So like, also join Heal, like that is coming. And Isabel is like, she was my amazing set of eyes to help me like go through the copy. So shout out to you for that as a really big part of it. I think sometimes we're just so in our stuff that we need somebody else to kind of mirror back, or just like do a couple little tweaks, and that kind of just, okay, great, that's so much easier. Yeah, so Heal, it's an 8-week course, so that's like what, 2 moon cycles roughly.
Mhm.
It's a no-brainer offer deal. Like it's $497. There's payment plans. Like this is, it's not like I'm giving it away, but I'm also recognizing that so many people, whether you believe this is true or not, but many people are still getting through COVID times. Like our
Oh, yeah.
financial situation has moved in very different ways that some of us just really didn't have a choice behind. And I know many of us are okay, and many of us could use a break. So I just want to
Mm.
offer a little break for those who need it, because this is really important work. And if I could do it for free, I would, but that's not how you run a business. So that's there. You can check out the links, all the things. Again, it's just an insane value. It really is.
Insane. Yeah,
Yeah, like
497.
there's
Oh, wow.
yeah, there's a lot of things that I do behind the scenes that you're gonna want to get in on. So all right, so let's wrap it up here. This has been absolutely a dream, and I really thank you. I'm gonna stop recording, but stay on the Zoom so that you and I can say goodbye properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna stop the recording.